Dear friends, I have big news for you. At the end of the year 2017, Saturn is changing sign, leaving Sagittarius and entering Capricorn, and is going to stay there until the end of the 2020. This planet symbolizes serious and a bit darker side of the life, pardon, and is not one of the favorite ones. But it is very important, and that is why we are going to pay attention to it. We are going to speak how it's going to influence the collective and individuals in the years to come. I have a video on the YouTube about the previous transit of Saturn. It is in Czech and Serbian language, not in English, but perhaps you know which astrological house did Saturn went through in your horoscope in the years 2015 until 2017. Think about that. What did you learn in those 2.5 years? That will be of a great use in the next 3 years. So if you have the opportunity to have a look at somebody else's video, please do it. We are interested in the transit of Saturn through the sign of Sagittarius, so that you can better understand this future transit while Saturn will be in Capricorn. One should not be afraid of the Saturn transits. Each transit should be understood as a healing process. With each of them, we have the opportunity to learn a lot and to take another step in the process of growing, as each of them brings new self-awareness. And that's also important in the process of self-healing. So the planet Saturn will travel through the sign of Capricorn from the end of December of the year 2017 until the end of December 2020. The last time it was in Capricorn sign was 30 years ago, between 1988 and 1990. Before that, from the 1959 until January 1962. And before that, from the years 1929 until 1932, and so on further in the past. So, Saturn feels good in the Capricorn sign, as he rules there. So, the transit through his own sign is considered to be very beneficial, even lucky. Astrology describes this as a powerful position. If somebody has Saturn in Capricorn in the natal chart, it gives to a man education, seriousness, political talents, responsibility, objectivity, and some sort of interest in social questions. On the lower level, it represents a man who suffers of hard work or in some other way he feels miserably, without feeling perhaps, or he has no mercy. On a higher level, also it represents a solitary person, one who step by step creates life or social structures. He does that without sentiments. He studies a lot also, or even devotes his life to science. He's often interested in history and often teaches others on the base of his experiences. This position also can give lawyers or people interested in the court. In Indian tradition, Saturn is the planet of karma. We actually find the same understanding of Saturn's energy in European mythology. In the ancient times, he was described as a son who had overthrown his father, Uranus, and was living in a fear that the destiny would repeat and that he would experience the same thing. And the destiny repeated. Saturn was overthrown by his son Zeus. So all the sayings such as no pain, no gain, as you sow, so shall you reap, business before pleasure, and many others of this type are sayings connected to the archetype of Saturn. When people say such things, they insist or see the harder side of the life and they are Saturnian types, even though they might not be aware of it. As we know, God created man in his own image, and God didn't work. He created. Even he created through his word. On the other side, Jupiterian or solar types of people do not like to work. These are people actually with many planets in Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. They perhaps create, or they feel that they co-create with God, but they don't work. So think about that. Which type rules in the Western countries of our time? And this, what they do, influences everybody else. In the majority of Western societies, the biggest sin is not to work. It has been created the cult of work, or to say labor. People spend all days on their jobs and are even proud of that. Of course, often they work for somebody else. Negative side of Saturn is tyrannic person. He even tyrannizes with the hard work. If Jupiter would rule, we would cultivate, we would have the cult of knowledge and the highest intellectual and spiritual knowledge. The science and education would flourish. We would encourage people to be led with the higher inspiration and by the desire to discover universal or divine laws. And their aim would not be money and pure greed, as it is now. Material needs would only be the base for the higher aims. So, does Saturn or Jupiter rules in so-called civilized societies on the Western world? Try to guess. But let's go back to the point where we said that Saturn is the planet of karma. As the archetype of physical manifestation, Saturn tells us that we manifest in our lives that what we have created in this life or in previous existences, according to Eastern beliefs. So it does not have meaning to blame others for that, what is happening to us, but it is proper to ask oneself, what am I doing wrong? And all that brings us to the interpretation of Saturn from the astropsychological point of view. So, from this point of view, Saturn represents the part of our subconscious that Carl Jung has named shadow. Shadow is the unconscious part of personality that was suppressed or never recognized. But even if such, it exists and manifests in human life. Mechanisms of shadow are especially interesting, as we do not see it on ourselves, or to say we don't consciously recognize it. We project it on other people. We also attract people who enables us to project our shadow on them. At my web pages named Symbolic Thinking, I offer a seminar of personal growth based on astropsychology that helps people to recognize their shadow and to integrate it. The name of this seminar is The Beauty and the Beast, but unfortunately it's not in English, it's in two other languages that I use. So as the seminar is not in English, I offer to all other English speakers personal consultations that are based on this seminar, that we work on this topic. So if you are interested in this, please feel free to contact me and we can organize a session. So under this video, there is a link to the web and my email. Feel free to contact me. Interesting to say more, spiritual and personal growth starts with the recognition of the shadow, even with the integration of it. Only after that we are able to live freely and develop our life and our personality in accord with the energy of Jupiter. And Jupiter stands on the opposite side of the coin. One side is Saturn, on the other side is Jupiter. One makes problem, the other one gives solution and leads us to the future. So some of you already know that I'm also a Theta healing practitioner. I will put under this video the link to that also, so that you can get information about this spiritual healing technique. What is especially noticeable, it is that people who come for healing usually need to get rid of prejudice, fears, or blockages that symbolizes Saturn in their natal chart, except some other things. If you need more about the information of this, please write to me. I will ask any question you have. So let's now say a few words about the mundane effect of Saturn transits. So how do they influence the whole world? During the 20th century, Saturn was in Capricorn from the year 1929, and then from the year 1961, and then from the 1988, and so on. So in each of those transits, he stayed in the sign of Capricorn 2.5 or 3 years. So you can maybe analyze yourself what was happening in those years, but I'll tell you shortly which were the effects. For example, at the end of the 80s and beginning of 90s, the whole program of the breakup of Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, and Czechoslovakia was already arranged. I'm saying arranged because it was arranged by the higher power, not because of the people who were living there. And in the same time, people in power were actively forming another unions, and one of them was European Union. I'm not going to comment here which of the unions were good or bad. It is enough to say those facts. So what can we say about contemporary transit of Saturn on the mundane level? When we analyze the transit in the past and we analyze the contemporary political and economical situation in the world, and we add to that some knowledge that we have about the nature of Saturn transits, it is quite easy to say that we are going to go through the period of big disintegrations and changes, and at the same time we are going to go through the process of building new structures that will have to be very strong so that the whole world could rely on them. Some alliances and unions will collapse and some other will be formed in the next 3 years. It is also possible that in this period people will come up with the idea how to create new unions, and the realization would come later in the years to come, but perhaps even in those 3 years. So it is also very significant that historical science will flourish, and people will perceive the history in a new way according to new breakthrough researches. That already started actually. Many governments will collapse, but it is even more interesting that constellations in Capricorn signify that a new world power will emerge. So changes are not going to be local, they will be global. Speaking about Saturn, we should mention the 14 to 15-year cycle. So in the years 2003 to 2005, Saturn was in Cancer, and now we see the results of this cycle. So think of that about yourself through your life. What was built or arranged in those years and which effect it has on you. The same will be on the mundane level. We will have the effect of that what we built as a collective. So think, did you start something in that time and can you make it stronger now? Or you see that is not worth holding on it. In political sphere, I said it's going to be the similar thing. Generally speaking, Saturn first weakens and later makes stronger the area where he transits. It's going to be a little bit different because now he's in his own sign, but there is also a possibility that things will develop in this way. Accordingly, one can expect that it is going to be harder to maintain his energy in the years 2018 and even more in the 2019, when it can be even destructive. The same applies on the world and on individual level. In the year 2020, we can generally expect stronger positive side of the transit, But that year is special not only because of Saturn, but because of other constellations as well. It is also worth knowing that Saturn in Capricorn will force the return to the old values because he is extremely conservative in his own sign. He will force us to deal with authorities, father figures, bosses, and on the mundane level will support conservative governments and rulers. Saturn judges. He is similar to Jupiter in this sense, but he does not have mercy while Jupiter has it. That is why Jupiter often intervenes in the judicial processes to correct Saturn's judgments or verdicts, as they're not enough merciful. That is like in the movies, for example. You can imagine how that happens in the movies. When the court first settles the judgment, and then suddenly there comes the pardon. This is Saturn first and Jupiter later. Jupiter is going to transit through his own sign, Sagittarius, from the end of the 2018 until the end of the 2019. And by Saturn being his sign of Capricorn, and we will see partly or fully this scenario, this what I describe now, with the pardon and the judgment. How will Saturn influence individuals? Usually fiery people have problems with Saturn. So these are people that have planets in Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius because they do not like really to work and then don't like to see this harder side of the light. Of course, it can be even different for them if they have strong earth element in their horoscopes. But let's say fire people like to believe that they are God favorites and they don't need to work. So the advice is for them, it is better to work with Saturn. And it is not good to run away from him and be afraid of responsibility. Even if one tries to escape, it will have to work on it in some way. Transits of Saturn will be the most influential and the strongest in the cardinal houses, which are the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th, and for the cardinal signs that are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And we will speak more later about this. The transit is also hard for those who are young or new in a way. This applies on the collective level also. So for those who are who don't have tradition or old stable values that can rely on them in this time. It is also hard for those who are weak. Saturn does not really like weak people. And the biggest benefits will Saturn have from the Saturn will have older people, especially those who have over 60, as Saturn is the planet of old people, and also it is the Capricorn is the sign of old people. So they will benefit from this, while people who have less than 30 years will maybe feel it as a heavy one. So further we are going to speak about the aspects of Saturn with the other planets while he will be in Capricorn. Those aspects make the transit so important and mark crucial turnovers in the world at the beginning, and actually they mark the beginning of the new world order even. Without those constellations, only Saturn would not be enough to change the whole world situation. So the most important year for the main world political and other happenings will be 2020 from the astrological point of view. Of course, life can show something different. That year are going to happen 3 major big conjunctions. First we'll meet Saturn and Pluto, then Jupiter and Pluto, and finally Jupiter and Saturn. Those 3 planets have met in the sign of Libra, in the year 1981, when the so-called New World Order was introduced to the wider public. You see, we are dealing with the same thing. So first about Pluto and Saturn. Planet Pluto is in the Capricorn sign since the year 2008. And it will be there until 2023. Very long transit. With this transit started so-called economical crisis in the big part of the world, of course, which is not any crisis at all, but a deep and serious process that strongly shows that the leading power of the world uses its power in a negative way. This leading power also exploits world and natural resources in a negative way. Not to say that they use humans in a negative way. Unfortunately, with this transit, evil comes to the surface, which is not a Pluto's fault. Pluto only shows what can happen to humans when they let evil people to rule the world. Many are correctly saying that we are witnessing the war against humanity, and that's really true. The good news is that from the year 2020, the fight between good and evil on the macro plane will slowly stop, and those who are behaving in a despotic way, or those who are tyrannizing people or destroying this beautiful world, will be punished. If you think that something like that is possible only in fairy tales, and something like that does not exist anymore in our world, you will be most probably pleasantly surprised. All the rulers know that their time is coming to an end, and they're hysterical about that. That happens from the time to time in history. This is, of course, not the first time. So, cycle of Pluto and Saturn, they met together, and they created the story that started actually with their conjunction in Libra sign in the 1982. And now they're going to meet 2020 in the Capricorn sign. And we will see what was created in the world for those 38 years and what is worth saving for the future. Those two planets create the base for the earthly existence. That's how they are important. They're dealing with resources. So when they meet in Capricorn, a good and a bad legacy will appear to the surface. The sins from the recent and old past will appear. And we will see that the law of karma will work, as Indians call it. Those sins will be visible on individual and collective level, so individuals, families, or nations will have to pay for their actions and perhaps wrongdoings. During this process, that we already feel in some way, I was going to say, there are going to be many positive effects as well. So the process will show what is really important in life and how to create a new base for our future human existence. So now I would like to mention the conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter. That is another important conjunction connected with Jupiter, with Saturn that we speak about today. And it will occur, as I said, in 2020. In the years to come, I'm going to record many videos on those topics, on planetary aspects. So I'm not going to mention them all now. This video would be too long anyways, too long. So just a few things about Saturn and Jupiter, and most probably you will have the opportunity to see a bigger video only on this. Astrologers name Saturn and Jupiter as the great chronocraters, which means the rulers of time. Their conjunctions in the sky are known as great conjunctions. When Saturn and Jupiter meet in the sky, that means that the old king is dead and the new one is born. So the exclamation, "The king is dead, long live the king," belongs to this planetary aspect. You can read more about that topic from the book New Insights in Modern Astrology by Liz Green and Stefan Arroyo. As Saturn and Jupiter are going to meet in the sign of Capricorn, they will mainly influence the leading structures corporations, and politics. In one of the previous cycles, when they met in Libra sign, they have supported and changed the communication between two worlds, influenced diplomacy and international relationship, help people creating new agreements, etc. Because Libra rules those things. Later, for example, when they met in the sign of Taurus in the year 2000, they influenced the consumption of genetically modified food. So, they met in Capricorn in 1961, 1901, 1842, and further in the past. Their meetings are specific in many ways. For example, even before the exact conjunction, people are in some sort of a panic state because they feel that one time is going to finish and the new one will start. Fortunately, this state often alternates with the visions of the future. In such times, all habits loses their meaning and the question arises, what things of old should be brought into the future or into new time, as we said? What will still be needed later on and what do we need to get rid of? So, as you see, some sort of philosophical questions arises when they meet. People analyze more, think more about the meaning of everything, and so on. While Saturn stays in Capricorn, there is going to be another very special thing. At the same time, we are going to experience the transit of Rahu and Ketu. This is north and south lunar nodes. They will transit on the axis Cancer, Capricorn. I'm saying Rahu and Ketu from Jyotish, but we call them lunar nodes. So Ketu, the south node, will be in the 2019 in the Capricorn, and first will go over Pluto, and during April and May will go over Saturn. You won't believe me, but this transit means the same as other mentioned. It signifies the end of the cycle and the beginning of the other, of the beginning of the end of the cycle and the beginning of a new one. A new cycle actually starts with this and influences the same areas. Can you imagine? So many things happening in Capricorn. So let's see which other transits will occur while Saturn will stay in Capricorn. Yeah? We're going to mention some other transits. So other planets will transit somewhere else. They're not connected with Saturn in Capricorn, but they're important. So there are two transits that I will mention now. That's Uranus transits and Jupiter transits. Uranus is slowly entering the sign of Taurus. I'm looking forward to speak about this transit in detail in some future video as well. Uranus trines, he makes the trine with Saturn in the year 2018 in August and September. This is excellent transit, particularly will influence Earth side people. These are Taurus, Virgos, and Capricorn. Especially people who have planets on horoscope points at the beginning of the earthly signs, so from 0 to 5 degrees, let's say. The aspect can be beneficial for material things, so can bring some new material security, can increase self-confidence, and create new job situation for those people. It is also of a big importance on the mundane level, as will help us to overcome the changes with Saturn. It shows that new economy will appear, new currency most probably, and the natural resources will be understood and explored in a new way. So we said the transit of Jupiter between 2018 and 2020 will also be significant. Please have a look at the video named Astrology Transit Jupiter in Scorpio 2017 to 2018. It discovers that in the mentioned years, Jupiter has very positive influence. Later on, in 2018, Jupiter will be even stronger, and after that, as it will travel through his own sign and balance in a perfect way Saturn, that is going to be in his own sign. So, especially after the end of 2018 and 2019, we will see some sort of a new energy in the world. Yeah, there will be troubles, but there is a new light coming also. And later in 2020, Jupiter is going to be in Capricorn together with Saturn. So as we see, Jupiter will help us a great deal in the next 3 years and create balance with the heavy and responsible Saturn. And now we are going to speak about the influence of Saturn in personal lives. What majority of you is waiting for? Everything that we said until now also applies for individuals in some sort. Wherever Saturn transits in your horoscope, he marks important time and big changes. But it is the most influential, as we said, in cardinal houses and cardinal signs. That means that people who have planets or points in cardinal planets and signs will have some challenges and will have to overcome them. Because squares pushes us to solve the problem. So I'm going first to mark certain headings as the transit will have the same meaning for all of us. So there where you have Capricorn in your horoscope, there you will deal with those things. First, Saturn symbolizes our father or authorities or us as authorities. So we are all going to deal with this issue in some way. In this area we have to become authorities, for example. So check where is Capricorn in your horoscope to understand this. So in the horoscope house that is ruled by Capricorn, we are going to change our status for the better, hopefully, to achieve higher position. But we will have to work hard for this. It will not come easily. Transit will in some way influence our career, job, our ambitions, achievements, and increase our need to be accepted, especially in those areas where you have Capricorn. Wherever it is, it will teach us to be organized, to work, and by doing so, to eliminate frustrations and fears. So we eliminate problems when we work hard. Will give us more responsibilities in that certain area. Will create more stable structures in that area. So if you are interested in astrology, connect your natal Saturn with this transit. Where is your natal Saturn and what is he doing? That will also change in a way under this transit. If your natal Saturn is retrograde, which is very good by the way, you will have to work even harder. You will have double responsibility with this transit. So for most of the houses, the meaning is the same. Work to achieve something better, to be better, and to be more successful. So let's go now through the houses. If you have ascendant, sun or moon in Capricorn, especially if you have ascendant in Capricorn, and to a lesser degree this influences you if you have sun or moon there. You are entering a new life phase. So the last 2.5 years were for you very slow. Old structures fell apart. Nothing new was built. Many things lost meaning. But new forms were actually created somewhere deep inside of you in your subconscious, like that something is planted inside of you, but you could not let it grow, it was not the time, and now that will happen. So you are beginning new 30-year cycle, and the most important will be first 7 years, so until 2024-25. People with the planets in Capricorn sign like to work hard and to see the achievements, which was not really possible in the last years, but now they will start seeing it. Changes will appear in the perception of the world and perception of oneself, and then in professional and partnership life. Capricorn people will work hard, and thanks to that hard work, from now on, can achieve a lot, especially if they're already mature, they're over 30. So even tired, they are able to achieve their goals, so no problem for them. But for now, remember, the accent is on you, not on other people. They will come later on, the same money things will come later on and all other things. Now, focus is on you. And people with the ascendant, sun and moon in Aquarius. More, this is for those who have ascendant in Aquarius, but for others as well. So they will go to the last phase of the 30-year cycle. Their inner structure slowly will fall apart, and at the same time, something new will be built inside of them, but they will not really understand it. Unfortunately, people with Saturn in the 12th house, so one before Sun, one before Ascendant, and so, feel more intensively that something is falling apart, and they don't feel that something new is created. That's why this can be somehow frustrated. But just trust the process. This transit for you will be better than for many other people who have Saturn in the 12th. And at the end of 2020, many new inner and outer forms will form slowly. For now, it's important for you to save money, or at least not to spend too much. Then to meditate, to learn new things, to let things go, to think more about your needs, and then slow, you will go to the next phase of your life. People with the ascendant, sun or moon in the Pisces, will achieve some of the long-term goals. That's very good ones. Something important they will achieve. But also it's possible that they will give up on some of the goals. But that's okay. After this transit, we'll better understand people and society they live in. This transit will be good for studying the power of psyche and conscious mind. That will help also them to better understand people. And after that, maybe they will change friends, or they will change the society they're in. There are going to be changes in this matter. Even maybe they will gain some protectors and some help from others that can help them to build new ideas, new wishes for the future. Because this is partly they're going to have Saturn in the house of long-term wishes and desires. So maybe they will have some new ideas about that. People with the ascendant and then Sun and Moon also in Aries will have an important life phase. They will change the attitude towards the authorities or their father or other important figures, professors or something, will strengthen life aims, life goals, and that's especially important for those oriented toward career. This is perfect time to build strong career future. They will become more mature and take over big responsibility for themselves and for the others. Will make clear what they are going to achieve generally in life. Now will become clear to them. See, it's very important transit for Aries people. They're cardinal. People with the ascendant and sun and moon in Tauro will have a desire to change their old belief system. Strange for Taurus, huh? And they will even work on that. Their new goals, their new belief system, their new visions. For some period they will fight with old values and old visions until they understand that they don't have any meaning for them anymore. So at some point we'll have to find new inspiration to live, a new vision that will lead them in the future. That can come through studying, through traveling, or something like that. For those who study, this is important transit, especially also for those who are in the court or who are in judging process, even lawyers, some lawyers. Maybe there are going to be some difficulties there, but they will learn a lot. People with the ascendant, sun or moon in Gemini will have active the 8th house, which is the house of a deep inner transformation that comes through sexuality, finances, death, emotional experiences of all sorts. This is also the house of family heritage in a way, and the house of secrets. So Saturn will help them to relieve those things if they work on it. Mysteries of life and death will occupy these people very much. For them it is good time for self-analysis, studying astrology, for example, and similar secret sciences. In the later phase, the transit is very good for the joint ventures. So if somebody is dealing with money, later on is very good. People with the ascendant, sun or moon in Cancer will feel the transit strongly as the same as other cardinal signs. Saturn is going to visit their 7th astrological house. And so-called heavy planets in the 7th house often create the feeling that others are against us, especially our partners, business partners, life partners, that they put pressure on us, and even that we have enemies everywhere. Other thing is that we project our problems with this on other people. We refuse to confront ourselves with them, so we prefer to project our imperfections on others. Be careful about this process. So some people will experience with this Saturn the change with clients, with customers, maybe even with patients, depends on the profession. And in the last phase, Saturn will improve partnerships and strengthen relationships. Those that are really good will be even stronger. And now let's say a few words about Saturn for those who have ascendant sun or moon in Leo. They will have to pay attention to their health, will learn how to work patiently and slowly. We learn that often people have to work every day and step by step to achieve something. We'll understand why is organization important and how to create system in everything they do. This does not mean that inspiration and love are not important, as they usually believe. Of course it is. It is very important. Just sometimes Saturn wants to teach us that we also need to organize ourselves, or that organization comes first. So people with the ascendant sun or moon in Virgo will experience this transit less intensively maybe than others, unless they have troubles with children. That's possible with this transit, that they have to take care about children more, or that kids are making some serious decisions and they need to support them, to feel responsible for them, and so on. So that's one thing. And another possibility that people will experience, at the beginning, Saturn can block some investments, for example, but later on can improve them. And most probably many Virgos will develop the way how to think, to analyze life and themselves in a new way. They will start seeing themselves as a whole. This is going to be a new thing for Virgos. When they say me, they will think about that what Jung marked with big S, self. Yeah? They will feel more their conscious and unconscious part of personality and the unity of that. So they will also, through that, understand that they can't work only for money, and that self-realization, it is something what they want to do in their life. Self-realization. This is going to be their motto. So then people with ascendant sun or moon in Libra, they will have Saturn in a very sensitive 4th house. It signifies the house of home, but also house of origin, parents, family. Also, it signifies the place where they feel like home. Even it signifies the country of origin. So it represents the base of personality, which is actually emotional part of personality. So many things will change here, for everybody different. And it will change for better. And Libra people will establish the base for a new life. One door will close and the other door will open for them. Libras will have similar transits to those who have planets in Capricorn, but the difference is that they do not have 7 years for testing themselves. They had it already 7 years before, in those 7 years. So they can go direct up to the heavens. Their family will most probably gain new status, perhaps will buy or sell real estate and build new material base for life. Libras are waiting for this for a long time already. People with the ascendant Sun or Moon in Scorpio will have the opportunity to earn big money almost immediately in the first phase of this transit, and perhaps later on to understand what money means to them. As we know, that is their big occupation. They will examine the power of thoughts also and start communicating in a new way, perhaps more responsible, in a responsible way. Will understand mental energy better than before. For them can be even useful to study this topic, to go to seminars and courses where they will learn about this. People with the ascendant Sun or Moon in Sagittarius can take a break after long 2.5 years, as Saturn left their sign. If they changed or improved their professional life, and I'm sure they did, now they will have the opportunity to present that to the world and to earn money in a new way, because they have new self-awareness, they have new knowledge, they have new professional direction. So they will, through this, now gain some money. If they have low self-esteem, will have a chance to change that until 2020. Remember, if you respect yourself, your talents and abilities, then other people will respect that as well. And that will be most probably in proportion with the money you earn. And at the end of this video, I would like to add a few more remarks. It is very important to understand the power of consciousness. God gave man consciousness and free will, so man can choose how to live. It is also true, another thing, that if majority of people are conscious about certain thing, that will happen. That is why it's dangerous to think in a negative way, to be afraid, to expect something bad to happen, for example, listen to negative predictions, etc. We should use the transit of Saturn to create better new system, new social structures that will be more powerful than the dark leading structures of our time, stronger than bankers, stronger than this system which is destructive, which destroys and bombs innocent people. This system, for example, that makes people to be their slaves. And I can go further, but I don't want. So we need to create something better than this. So let's be conscious about the world that we wish to create. And that's all for today. If you wish to learn more about yourself, please order personal consultations. All information about me and my website, my email, you will find my web pages, you will find under this video. The name of my web is symbolicthinking.net. You can there read articles in English. There I have blog in English as well. And many things will come in English later on. Now I'm working in different languages. At the Symbolic Thinking website, you will find different types of consultations. For example, explanation of the purpose of your existence, partnership horoscope, contemporary transits, different things. Your inner potential for a career or to have a good health and so on. Some horoscope analyses are offered in audio form. There are also consultations named Ask One Question. They're only 15 minutes long, so you may choose that. And in the last time, I even combined astropsychology with theta healing. As I said already, theta healing is a technique that helps people to remove those inner models and prejudice or blockages that are maybe genetical or karmic or spiritual or formed in this lifetime. Feel free to order Theta Healing if you wish to relieve yourself from anything that stops you to have healthy and content life. If you like the video, please do not forget to like it, subscribe and share. Looking forward to seeing you soon, and until next time, may Saturn bring you stamina, devotion and great success.